right, folks. Thank you so much for your patience today. I want to start off the session. In our last session, folks had asked us about the materials and the slides. We were told that you can find those through Cvent, so make sure you check up on your registration and you'll be able to get those materials. Just wanted to make sure we had that ahead of time. So make sure you're following up there. My name is Rueben Otero. I am one of the Pro Equity consultants here at the Office of Equity, and we're very excited to welcome y'all to our second session today, the ins and outs of PEAR, knowledge implementation through game assimilation. And we have some stuff from the first session that we thought was so great that we didn't get to, and we'd love to pick up the slack on that and make sure you get that information as well. So next slide, please. So before we begin, we want to set out our norms for the session. We want to encourage everyone to be humble and willing to grapple with challenging ideas, to find your learning edge and push it. Push it. Recognize how your own social positionality, meaning your race, class, gender, sexuality, ability, informs your perspectives and reactions. Accept that discomfort is necessary for growth. And to use your defensive reactions as entry points to build a deeper understanding. You know, when our hackles come up and we're like, oh gosh, I need to attack. Let's use that as a chance to deeper our understanding. We're going to encourage everyone to speak from your own experience without generalizing. Stay engaged and hold space for others, and be willing to extend grace to others and ourselves as we speak and process out loud. So if that sounds like a good time to you, go ahead and give us a reaction. You might give us the clapping reaction, the thumbs up reaction, the laughing reaction if you understood the reference. If you get it, you get it. Just give us a little reaction there. You can put it in the chat as well, saying that you understand those norms and that you're going to hold yourself to those. Thanks. Looking around, those folks who are participating, give me that reaction saying, I'm ready to be social, Rueben. I'm ready to participate in the stuff that y'all got for us. So we can go ahead and go to the next slide. So we're going to start with introductions. So please share your name, your pronouns, your position and agency. And then in the chat, what do you consider your home? Is it a city, a physical place, a person? And what does it mean to you to show respect? And how do you show respect to others? Go ahead and give some time for folks. Think about your answers. Go ahead and drop those in the chat. Great. I see Marina has introduced themselves. Thank you. Feel free. It's just our moment to get together. Samuel, thank you, Samuel, for introducing yourself. Go ahead and give a few more moments for that. Remember, there are no awkward pauses. There are just opportunities to participate. If the moment's feeling a little awkward for you, let's investigate that. Let's feel why that feels. We're just given space. Thank you so much, Rebecca, for introducing herself. Latrice, thank you for joining us. Ariel, thank you. Fanny, Maurice, thank you very much. Nice to see you here today. Thank you for joining us, Katrina. Kristen, oh gosh, it's going faster than I can keep up with. Kristen, Giovanna, Kathy, Samantha, Danielle, thank you for joining us. Uh, let's see. Katrina, if you'd be so kind, could you just take this prompt down and pop it in the chat for us? So that way folks who join later, if they want to come in and be in community with us and share about themselves, they can do so.
Yes, I got you.
Thank you. You're an angel. Hello to Veronica. Hello to Chris. Hello to Caitlin and Perry and Estella and Olga, Erica. Thanks for joining us today. Tim and Jen, Ray, thank you for joining us today. So folks, as you're sharing with us and letting us in and telling us about yourselves, we'll go ahead and introduce ourselves and our roles. So my name is Rueben Otero. You'll see my smiling face on the bottom right of the PowerPoint. I am a pro-equity consultant here at the Office of Equity. Presenting here today, I also have the wonderful B Hill. B, if you could go ahead and introduce yourself and your role in the office. Oh, there we go.
Thanks, Ruben. Hey, y'all. I'm B. Hill, Pro Equity Consultant Manager. Our pronouns are they, them. Very grateful to be in space with y'all today. And I'll pass it off to Katrina.
Hey, y'all, that's me just trying to get my life together over here, clicking the right buttons, not the wrong ones. So thank you for your grace and support. Katrina Tuggle, she, her, from the Office of Equity, Pro Equity Consultant. One fun fact about me is I love the Goodwill. You can find me there on Fridays for their 25% off, Sundays for a 10% off student discount because I have my kids. Yes, I know it like that. I just find a lot of joy finding things at the Goodwill, and I'll pass it back to Ruben.
Thank you. Additionally, so B's picture is on the top left, Katrina's on the top right. In the middle left, we have Catherine Feltz, one of our pro equity consultants. To the right of her is Kalima Ujama. And then on the bottom left, right next to my smiling face, is Jasmine. Oh gosh, why is Jasmine's last name escaping me?
Remick.
Remnick, thank you. I just don't know why I forgot that. Just popped out of my head. And we comprise the pro equity consultant team here in the Office of Equity. Next slide, please. Great. So we had our welcome and norms and our little icebreaker. Thank you so much for folks participating. We're going to begin by recapping and then picking up where we left off for workshop 1. So we had a lot of good stuff in workshop 1 that we didn't quite get to. We want to make sure y'all are getting that information. So we're going to do that. We're going to have activity, a break, our second activity, and then we'll wrap it up in next steps. If we have time, we'll have some more time for questions. Thank you so much to those of you who were in our last session, had some excellent engagement there. And I know we're going to have some good engagement here. So moving on from our first session, next slide, please. And great. So in our first session, we broke down a little bit of the history of the office and about, talking about the why of why this, why now, why PEAR work. And then we moved into some action steps, and we want to recap the action steps. I think there are some really great stuff. Remember that these slides will be available on Cvent in the slide space. So if you want to see any of those files will be available. But in the first session, B talked about step 1, thinking of ourselves as leaders, even if we don't occupy traditional leadership roles. There are lots of opportunities for us to participate and affect change. We just need the critical mass of people coming along with us and making that change possible. Everyone can be a leader. Next slide. Step 2, we had that excellent quote from that very famous movie. Put that movie in the chat if you remember what that was from the first session. And we're talking about with power, privilege, and resources comes great responsibility, taking ownership of the work. They're analyzing ourselves and thinking about what things we have access to, what privilege we have access to, what power we've access, what resources. That all has the ability to affect change. Thinking about ways we can be a leader. We can be a leader with those 3 things and using them for good. And several folks said in the chat, the correct name, Spider-Man. It was Spider-Man, of course. Next slide. In step 3, discovering what helps us stay aware of our ownership, finding that purpose. We all have a different reason for getting into the work and being engaged with it. So what is your engagement? What is your buy-in? How are you being committed to this? Next slide. Then step 4 was, that really meaty one. We had a lot of stuff going on there, or protein rich. I want to get away from the meaty because that's not about everybody. It was really protein rich, had a lot of stuff for us to chew on. And we're thinking about societal illnesses that can block our path to internal change. And B did a great job moving us through the life cycle of biases and internalized oppression. We all move through the world with biases, and that is okay. We can't, no one is free from that. We got to think about how that is affecting the way that we are working through the world and how that internally impacts us. Next slide, please. So step 5 was focus, commit, and build at least one of these things every day. Expertise, skills, habits, self-introspection. There are opportunities every single day for us to build our skills in pro-equity, anti-racism work. And committing to changing one of these every day may seem like a small step, but in the course of a year, if you're doing one thing every day, that's 365 things that you've done better. Next slide. And then step 6, giving ourselves permission to fumble and practice. Grace, forgiveness, and humility. Giving ourselves grace is so important. No one can know everything about all of the work. There are things impacting each of us, going back to our power and privilege conversation. And we are going to have a moment that, we're maybe perhaps not proud of, but giving ourselves that grace and giving others that grace too, to make those mistakes, learn and grow, and so that we can all grow on our journey. And next slide. Great. So now I'm going to hand it off to B, and B is going to tell us a little bit more about the PEAR ecosystem and how that interacts with what we've been talking about.
Thank you, Rueben. So this probably looks familiar to many of you, our PEAR ecosystem, pro-equity, anti-racism ecosystem, and acknowledging that to develop and sustain a PEAR ecosystem, we first must recognize that community must be the guiding light for planning, implementation, continuously improving, evaluating, and measuring our action in government services to achieve pro-equity, anti-racism outcomes in the state of Washington. And so what we're going to do here, we're taking it back to the basics. That was the key and core foundation of our first session, taking it back to the basics. So the basics of building a PEAR ecosystem. So we're talking about the PEAR values, PEAR service lines, the determinants of equity, and PEAR ecosystem outcomes. So we're just going to break it down with the PEAR ecosystem in these next few slides. And so when we talk about ecosystem, right? Ecosystem is a biological community of living beings communicating with the physical environment and other non-living components. It can also be defined as a chain of communication, interaction between living organisms in their environment. So we are building this ecosystem that is rooted and centered and sustained by anti-racism and pro-equity. So the PEAR ecosystem, the goals of developing a PEAR ecosystem is to reduce disparities for us in our roles as state employees in public contracting, public education, public employment, and public services, as well as improve outcomes that benefit all tribes, communities, employees of Washington's PEAR ecosystem. And so we have to think about what's the mission? What's the PEAR mission? So the PEAR mission is to promote equitable access to opportunities, power, and resources across government that reduces disparities and improve outcomes statewide. And to achieve in utilizing and enacting and engaging in that mission, we will develop and manifest the PEAR vision, which is everyone in Washington has full access to the opportunities, power, and resources they need to flourish and achieve their full potential. And so we're going to go through breaking down. Let's go with our next slide to talk about the PEAR values. 7 PEAR values: access, justice, Ubuntu, love, equity, dignity, belonging. So in those 7 PEAR values, access means creating and supporting barrier-free design, standards, systems, processes, and environments so that all individuals, regardless of ability, background, identity, or situation, can participate in, use, and enjoy the benefits. So no matter anyone's differences, folks have the access to participate in, use, and enjoy the benefits of employment, of programs, of service, of activities, communication, facilities, that which has been done wrong. We embody as I am because we are. It's
B, you're on mute.
I think y'all might have lost me for a minute.
Yes, we
Okay.
did. I think it was right around access and justice. It was going in and out. We're working on our end for any technological support, but we can hear you now and we see you.
Okay. So I'm gonna just start back at justice and then we'll keep rolling from there, okay? So justice, we make or do right that which has been done wrong. We embody what love looks like in action. Ubuntu is a South African term meaning humanity. It's often translated, I am because we are. It stresses the importance of interconnectedness of humanity. We recognize that our destinies are linked and we need each other to survive. Love, sometimes defined as a strong affection for another, arising out of kinship or personal ties. Love requires us to fumble forward, stay committed, and be humble. Equity, and particularly pro-equity. The most important construct amongst when you hear diversity, equity, and inclusion. It's not equality, it's equity. We strive for equity. It refers to the creation of opportunities for historically underrepresented populations to have equitable access to equitable opportunity. Equity is also the process of allocating resources, programs, and opportunities in employment, to customers and residents of historical discrimination and existing imbalances. Dignity. We respect the sacred nature of each individual's personhood, and we honor the work due to each person by the virtue of just their existence. Belonging, values, and practices that ensure no person is left out of our circle of concern. Belonging means more than just having access, being seen, or feeling included. It means that every member of society has a meaningful voice, that their well-being is considered, and that they can participate in the design of political, social, and cultural structures. Next slide, please. So in that diagram are service line investments. So there are 11 PEAR service lines. And so we have going to do a quick breakdown of them. And again, what we're highlighting is in building a PEAR ecosystem, think of it as the key and core ingredients of building the foundation to create a PEAR ecosystem. These are the key and core elements to sustain a PEAR ecosystem. Because it's not enough to build it, we have to be able to sustain it to create the change we are seeking. So in leadership, operations, and services, advancing PEAR practices and systems at all levels of state government. With plans, policies, and budgets, incorporating the PEAR values into plans, policies, and budgets that meet the needs of employees in the communities that we serve. We should be seeking to eliminate disparities where the needs are greatest. Workforce equity. Develop a PEAR organizational culture by building a diverse and culturally responsive pipeline for employees at all levels, and create opportunities for each employee to bring their full self to work, feel welcome, feel supported, and valued. We have tribal government relations. Invest in tribal government and enterprises and tribal organizations that progressively inform our state's PEAR decision-making and cultivate equitable, racially just, and accessible participation. Public communications and education. Advance our state's capacity to better communicate and educate our communities and employees in ways that are equitable, racially just, accessible, and cultivate a sense of belonging. With facilities and systems improvements, design and develop facilities improvements, public work projects, and business diversity programs that center the values and priorities of our employees in the communities we serve. With policy agenda, address root causes, because that is the work. The work of anti-racism, the work of being pro-equity center is to address root causes, not just the symptoms, but we have to get to root causes of disparities through policies, practices, and systems to end disparities. That is systems change. Build a racially just Washington. Use PEAR strategies and tools to eliminate racial inequities and improve outcomes for all racial groups, with an intentional focus on places where the needs are greatest. And capacity building. Intentionally develop organizational capacity to support the implementation of a PEAR framework in all agency decision-making. Data and strategy reporting. It's investing in data and strategy reporting systems to ensure that we drive equitable outcomes by investing where the needs are greatest and hold state agencies accountable for eliminating disparities in their business lines. And then engagement in community partnerships, which is the most important and the most foundational. This is where it should start. This is where we should start in all of our service lines, starting with engagement in community partnerships. Build partnerships with communities and employees that support and inform Washington State's PEAR ecosystem. So those are our 11 PEAR service line investments, key and core ingredients to develop the foundation of sustaining a PEAR ecosystem. Next slide, please. And so the impact of your service line investments, it should impact your determinants of equity. So this is the manifestation of PEAR, right? This is the manifestation of pro-equity and anti-racism. And so when it manifests, there should be pro-equity and anti-racism and equity in state and local practices, in early childhood development, quality education, in their food systems, health and human services. There should be pro-equity and anti-racism policies, practice, and experiences in jobs and training, parks, recreation, natural resources, healthy, built, and natural environments in transportation and mobility, housing and home ownership. There should be strong and vibrant communities, economic justice, community and public safety, equity and justice systems and laws, and also digital equity. So again, the impact of your service line investments should impact as well your determinants of equity. And we should see intentional, sustainable, and change that is rooted in anti-racism and equity. And with that, I think we're going to our next slide. And I will turn it over to Katrina.
Great, thank you so much, Bea. So when breaking down the 3 phases of the PEAR, that are in the PEAR plan and playbook, you'll see the first phase was really focusing around compliance. It was establishing those PEAR teams, being intentional of involving community in an authentic way, and really developing norms and opportunities and structures that allowed for that shared power to take place. Also, when thinking through those PEAR teams, really thinking through any restoration or repair that needed to be taking place to ensure that communities felt welcome and that norms were established for that. And that's a really important piece of the whole PEAR plan and playbook, is that PEAR team and having community voice and power established on that team. And then you'll see conducting the equity impact assessment. So again, that first step is very important, because without that, it's very challenging to move through steps 2 through 4. And then the next being developing the PEAR strategic action plans and producing the PEAR annual performance report that many agencies, if not all of them, have sent into us. And we have been going through that data, and we will be there to support as the next step. So phase 2 was really that transformation that will be taking place across Washington, across our state agencies and enterprises, to really embrace the community partnership, centering the voice of people who have been impacted by state programs and services and all that we do. So really happening with people and not to them, not creating a plan and having a skeleton and a pathway we're wanting to go, and then going to community and saying, is this okay? And below that, you'll see what Bea had just shared around those 11 service lines. And so we are here, your consultants who you saw on the introduction, to be alongside you, to partner with you, to support you as you're going through priorities, strategic action plan and investments, organizational habits, intended outcomes, and performance measures. We are here to be your your thought partners as we are going through and alongside this with you. And then phase 3 is in regards to accountability. I know sometimes that word can be activating or can be triggering or feel as though there's policing going on. And I just want to take that fear or that shame out of that word for us when we're thinking about accountability. All of us got into government work and got into public service with a heart to support and to uplift and to assist individuals. And so again, the Office of Equity, our positionality is, yes, we need accountability because there are people who have historically been left out intentionally and unintentionally. And again, we are creating workshops and partnering and building relationships and learning organizations, learning structures to support this change to take place. And so you can think of this support being hand in hand. We got you. And then along the way is just that gradual release and a pinky that we're always there to support you and walk alongside you along the way. And so again, this won't be solved overnight, but you can trust and believe that we will be walking alongside you and supporting you as we continue through these phases. So next, we touched on this in phase 1 and 2, but really our shared power consultants, they have workshops going on right now, but we really wanted to highlight the work of shared power consultants and the importance of this work to really uplift communities, repair harm that has occurred, create those opportunities for restitution, and really have these opportunities be authentic. This also, relational partnership is also important when thinking of employee to employee relations. You know, I'm a former educator, and I think the #1 piece, whether it was supporting communities, supporting students, supporting families, supporting staff, is it all centers on relationships. And I think we can all agree, even when we take our work hats off and we go home and into our communities, we can think of our relationships with our partners, our children's, our pets, individuals in our community that we come across, whether it's strangers or places we worship, that relationships are a centerpiece. And I can speak for myself in the way that I was raised, that maybe it wasn't always modeled in a way because of time and constraints of healthy relationships. And so Shared Power has done really amazing work to create this one-pager graphic that really centers on what relational partnerships are. And I think it's so valuable and important because it's pieces that can apply to our positionality when working with customers and clients, when working with individuals within our teams, across government agencies, as well as taking some of these pieces and applying them to our personal lives. So on the right, you'll see the relational partnership one-pager, and on it, you'll see pieces around trust, around healing is I'm jumping, starting with trust, moving to vulnerability, moving to healing, and then mindset, community, intentionality, and reflection and accountability. And the end point being belonging. And no matter where we're coming from and no matter what places we've been before, I think we can all agree that we want to feel like we belong, when we want to feel like we are accepted, and we want to feel as though we can come to work and be in our places and not have to put on masks, as well as our customers and clients who interact with our agencies and enterprises across the state. We don't want customers and clients feeling like they have to mask up when they come in contact with us, when they're wanting to receive services or support. They want to be able to come as they are. And I can speak from an educational lens that a popular term that gets thrown around is this code switching, and how students or families need to code switch as they engage with us, and that's just not the case. And so this relational partnership roadmap will really support us to allow us all to unmask, to really be able to get to belonging. And the last piece before I play the video that I want to highlight is you see that accountability is stop number 7. We really focus on that trust and that vulnerability and that healing through 1 through 3, because that's where it begins. And adding on from session 1 is really that internal look at ourselves and the roles that we've played and the work that we need to do is another important element of this journey we'll go on. So I'm going to share this video, and fingers crossed everyone that this just goes smooth. There's nothing more scary than trying to share a video virtually and worrying that the sound will not work. So I'm going to take a big stab at it, and I'm crossing toes and fingers at this moment. Give me a thumbs up if you can hear it.
Inequality, where the system only
We
works
can.
not for all, where entire communities have lost faith and power. Inequality, where the system only works for some, not for all, where entire communities have lost faith in powers that be, and where far too many individuals don't feel seen, heard, or valued. One state has risen up and said no more, with the goal of making Washington a truly belonging state. The Office of Equity will not rest until everyone is truly supported, respected, and empowered. When all the good intentions of the past haven't gotten Washington where it needs to be, it's now all about taking action. This starts with relational partnership and empathy-centered co-creation between government agencies and those commonly excluded and marginalized by government decisions. Coming together to undo past harm, restore trust, and advance pro-equity, anti-racism, or PEAR outcomes. This epic shared journey to a belonging state is already underway. Of course, it will not be easy, and we won't reach our destination overnight. However, the good news is we now have a roadmap to belonging, with its 7 crucial pit stops along the way: reflection and accountability, trust, vulnerability, intentionality, mindsets, healing, and community. Each pit stop allows us to think about how we got here, how we show up for ourselves and others, and what we can do better on the road ahead. Although the journey to belonging may be challenging, we each have access to a relational partnership toolkit to help us prepare for the trip, maintain momentum on the road, and rebuild and restore relationships along the way. Together, will we reach our destination and make Washington a belonging state? The answer is up to you.
Wow, that just gives me the chills every time I watch that. I shared that video with my 2 daughters, and it does make me feel emotional, because I think of the many people in many sectors of Washington State and across the United States and of course the world, of having to shift or mask up because there hasn't been spaces to allow someone to be who they are. And I was asked in a training recently, like, what is freedom and what would be equity for you? And I think of my husband, and I think of like the movement of bodies, and I think of like the care and the caution that we take, of thinking of where we'll show up and when we'll show up. Can we go camping? Can we travel to the state? What would it look like if we did a road trip together? And knowing that myself, being white, rarely has to think of that. And I think of all the codedness that goes along with someone saying like, well, of course you can go anywhere. This is America. What are you talking about? But thinking of all the different coded, like whether it's a flag, whether it's a poster, whether it's a bumper sticker that's really saying something else. And so this is a very touching piece for me personally, to think that if we do this work, if we do the internal work, if we do the agency work, if we do the internal work, if we dismantle systematic racism and isms within the state of Washington, all Washingtonians will not feel that fear as they navigate enterprises, agencies, spaces, outdoor spaces, and they will really get to live. If you could all drop in the chat something that is new to you from watching this video, something you already knew, and I will be looking for those responses. So reflecting on the one-pager, reflecting on the video, what's something that's new to you, and what is something that you knew. Thank you, Terry. New action steps we are taking. Yep, thank you. Known coded language. And again, I'm that teacher background, so I take silence and pause as we are reflecting and we are thinking. So take your time, and there is no pressure. Some of you may be thinking what's new to you and new personally, and writing it down, and that is okay too. New, the roadmap already knew. Plan is overdue. Absolutely. And I should have said I'm a snapper and I'm a finger thrower. That means I'm sending love. Absolutely, Latrice. Thank you for sharing that. Samuel, building relational partnerships and sharing power is the essential step and really hard. Absolutely. And I don't think people in charge really understand what a radical shift that will be. Absolutely. It's very different than the way business has been done. And I think that you're right. There's going to need to be a lot of supports and strategy and structure and accountability. And your Office of Equity is staffing up. It was shared by the end of this year, we'll have 35 people. And so again, we are going to be walking alongside y'all to make this happen. And it's long overdue. New, haven't seen the 7 pit stops doc. Can we get that? Yes, you can. It is going to be dropped lots of different ways, and I believe it's on the C-Vent. New coded language and symbols, really hard because it's radically different than how our government has ever worked. New, the roadmap, new having to mask up, absolutely. 7 pit stops, yes, oh, sorry. New, Washington State is leading the way in many ways, absolutely. All right, I'm gonna transition, minimize this. And thank you all for creating a space for me to be vulnerable. I think it's always important that we show up transparent and we show and unmask our real lives. And so thank you for creating a safe space for me to do that and connect it to the work.
And just to clarify really quickly, the materials are not on C-Vent yet, but they should be on the where you registered and where you see like our specific event. You'll see files downloaded. As we mentioned just a little bit earlier, we're compiling things right now and we'll have those available for you. So just keep an eye on C-Vent.
Thank you, Ruben. So 2022 to 2027 PEAR implementation strategy. We just wanted to highlight Audre Lorde, an individual who's been leading this work for many years in many different ways, and it is not our differences that divide us. It is our inability to recognize, accept, and celebrate those differences. And so the Office of Equity and all state agency leaders are responsible and accountable for implementing Executive Order 2204, implementing the Washington State Pro-Equity Anti-Racism PEAR Plan and Playbook. PEAR consultants have helped state agency leaders with developing a PEAR team, conducting agency equity impact assessment, developing implementation of PEAR strategic action plans, and preparing and submitting their annual reports, using the outcome-based methodology to determine the effectiveness of agency programs and services on reducing disparities, taking into consideration the community feedback on whether the performance measures established accurately measure the effectiveness of agency programs and services in the communities served. And so this is something that I've heard, something that I would say, but also have heard that's been very refreshing, is that it is our responsibility. We have personal work to do, all of us, in really examining our frames of reference and how they've been developed and how it impacts our conversations, how we serve in our roles in our communities, how we serve our roles in our work. And again, it's our responsibility because we have chosen the jobs that we have chosen. And so whether that's internally or reaching out to us of saying, I'm ready, it's happening, I need a partner, we are here for that. But knowing that it's non-optional, and it's non-optional in a threatening way, it's non-optional because there's lives at the other end of the decisions that we make. And again, to be very transparent, I have seen within systems, if we continue to perpetuate what we have always been doing, it can be life or death for certain people. And so again, I just spark to all of us in the warmest but firmest way is that this is our responsibility and it is non-optional, and we are here to support the work. We are here to support you to take the steps and to make it happen within your agencies. And is it hard? Yes, but we are together and we are united and we will make this happen. So I think that we should pause before we jump into this next portion for a 10-minute break. I know that there has been a lot in the last several slides, and so just take that moment till 11 a.m. and then we'll jump into our interactive section of this. So we'll come back at 11:10, and we will jump into our interactive. Sorry. Thank you. I'm glad I have somebody in here to support me. Not 11:10, do not take a 20-minute break. Please come back at 11 a.m. and we'll spend the last 30 minutes in our interactive session. Thank you so much. See you at 11 o'clock. All right, y'all, you can see how really with fidelity I know how to use technology. So just over here being a star, talking on without my mic. So that minute I was going to give, hopefully everyone else has been able to join us back. I hope you took some time to get some water, to do a stretch, to walk around wherever you are. Again, if we haven't stated it, just that self-care is so important. I think we live in a culture that's hustle, grind, work till the end, work till you break. And so again, you will hear continuously from the Office of Equity, yes, work, yes, change, yes, dismantle, yes, uplift, yes, bring those voices to the table who are not historically there, and also make sure that they have decision-making power. And that's hard work, and also rest. You are important, and your mental health is important, and your health is important. All right, I'm going to get off my soapbox and jump back into this presentation. As promised, this next section is going to be interactive. So really, we did break it down back to the basics, really broke down the different structures and applications that are at play when thinking of the PEAR plan and playbook and the ecosystem that will allow for all Washingtonians to thrive and have access and that belonging. And so next, I'm going to read a narrative, and it will be something that we do drop into the chat. And we're going to think through what could be applied to this scenario to create the change and the access and the belonging. And you're going to have time in a breakout session for about 10 minutes to discuss. So as I read this aloud, it will be on several slides. You're going to listen and you can follow along on the screen or close your eyes, whichever is best for you. And at the end of the narrative, we're going to have some questions for you to answer, and it'll be in the breakout groups. It will be 11 different groups with about 3 people per group. Again, we wanted to create that intimate grouping so that you're able to really dive deep and apply your lens and information gained from our workshop and any background knowledge or strengths or opportunities for growth that you bring to that conversation. So we titled this Bridging the Gap. A single pregnant mother, 20 years old, applies for medical and food stamps assistance through her local welfare department. When she realizes she is pregnant, she gives birth 7 months later to a healthy 9.2-ounce baby boy. After 6 weeks off, she returns to her part-time job and shortly thereafter begins taking a night classes at her community college to gain an associate's degree. She commutes to and from work in school by borrowing her mother's vehicle. She has limited credit and has not saved enough yet to purchase a vehicle on her own. Public transportation is not an option for community college because it is outside of the city limits. Halfway through the quarter, the vehicle breaks down. The transmission is busted. She is now catching the bus to get to and from the daycare center and work with her infant son. She relies on others for help getting to the community college in the evenings, which ultimately falters. She contacts her caseworker to inform them of the situation and seeks any available resources to help fix the vehicle. The case manager informs the young mother that there is an $800 voucher available to welfare recipients for vehicle repairs to help them find work. However, because the young mother is already employed, she does not qualify for that program. The young mother subsequently quits school and picks up another part-time job to earn more money to try and fix the vehicle. She accomplishes her goal of earning an associate degree 9 years later. So just take a moment to let that settle in. Reflecting back on the details of the story, again, we will drop this in the chat, but just let that settle in. 9 years later, and the barrier being thinking through what that barrier is. I don't want to do anyone's thinking for themselves or for them. So I'm just going to read the questions out loud, then we're going to send you to your breakout rooms for 10 minutes. So question 1, name all 4 entry waypoints where the mom came in contact with Washington State. At those entry points, what could Washington State have done to intervene and help? 2, name the PEAR service lines and the detriments of equity that framed this story, and list what could have been done to improve the family's life. And question number 3, we spent the first half of this workshop going over a change readiness of the self. The mom came in contact and interacted with people who represented the state or has associations with the state in their job capacity. Name the people, then name what each person did right, what each person could have done better, and what change readiness step you recommend. So again, these will be dropped into the chat, and then we are going to send you to your breakout rooms and dialogue, dig in, get vulnerable, get deep, and we will see you back at 11:20. I'm going to give it about 13 minutes so people can get settled. All right, it looks like we are having everyone back to join us. I hope that went really well in the sense that technology was on our side. You were able to see what was in the chat. So we have about 4 minutes left. My counterpart, Kate, has shared I've struggled with time a little bit today. I was like, oh, we got 15 minutes for a discussion. So this would be the time to just unmute yourself or raise your hand, and just whatever stood out about your discussion or just a general reflection of the day would be awesome too. So I am going to close my mouth and look forward to hearing from you in the chat or unmuting yourself.
Well, in our group, we identified, oh, I'm sorry, Mike, I just saw your hand go up at the same time.
All right.
You go ahead. You go right ahead. I can go next.
Okay, thanks, Mike. Awesome. So in our group, we discussed the 4 entryway points, and we think we identified all of them. There were 2 contacts with maybe DSHS. There was 1 contact with the community college, and the other contact is with the daycare. And that assumption was made, daycare, that she's on the child care subsidy program.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we identified as well. I'm glad that you identified DCYF does the subsidized child care, and what we focused on a little bit is talking about maybe areas the state can improve. I mean, we know that that although we can obtain subsidized child care, that doesn't mean there's the capacity out there for care providers, particularly maybe on hours outside of the normal 8 to 5 type hours. So if you're a student going to night school, it can be very difficult finding a place to put your child that you're comfortable with while going to school. So we also thought about, I know we know some colleges do this. I'm not entirely sure. We weren't entirely sure all do, but it would be really great if the state board prioritizes on-site childcare for parents that are coming to class. I think that's a big win, and then making sure those vouchers, DCYF, they keep fighting the good fight to see increases in those voucher amounts. And also we were a little concerned with the loss of the car maintenance voucher at the point you become employed. It's not that cookie cutter type approach. No, it's the state takes some time to learn and understand that every individual's got a unique situation. Have some navigators there to look at their unique situation, and maybe they don't lose that voucher right away. Maybe give them some time to put some money in the bank. Then maybe they can lose that voucher. That's what we came up with.
Absolutely. I think that the way we've always done things of a one size fits all, we can see the harm that can occur. And so really being intentional of learning and building those relationships of the scenario and seeing where there is flexibility and where ebb and flow could happen. Timothy or Tim?
Yeah, we were talking about how when parents go on like a TANF grant, they kind of come up with a plan to kind of figure out how they're going to get to the point in their life where they don't have to rely on TANF. And for a lot of people, that does require going to school, so you can get maybe a better paying job or something like that. And so for the voucher to not cover parents trying to get to school, it doesn't really line up with that kind of thinking. And so for it to only, be allowed for people that are trying to get to work, it just didn't make a whole lot of sense, I didn't think.
Yeah, of thinking of how systems that are operating to uplift or empower or support can then contradict against one another and then create more barriers and roadblocks versus creating that pathway.
Exactly.
Great. Well, I have just really been blessed to be in this space with each of you today. And I know my counterparts, B and Rueben, feel the same way. We do have 2 more sessions for the remainder of the day. And that will be focused on discussion and questions and engagement. So if you're able to, please come back and spend time with us. And we look forward to just continuing this journey with each of you. Thank you so much for being here. B or Rueben, anything you want to add?
Nothing to add. Thank you all. Appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Your time is so precious, and we're just so honored that y'all chose to spend it with us.